We should be recording, Mr. Toto.
Okay, great. Welcome everyone to our Wednesday, February 24th budget work session meeting. I'll take a motion to go into public session.
Move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. At this time, I'd like to ask everyone to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the
To the flag
of the
of the
United
United States
of
of
America
America,
and
to the republic
for which it
stands
stands, one
one
nation,
nation,
under God,
indivisible,
with liberty
liberty,
and justice
justice
for all.
for all.
I'd like to take a roll call, please.
Okay,
Mr. Toto,
here.
Ms. Hoffman,
Here.
Mr. Curcio,
Here.
Ms. Hanson,
Here.
Mr. Leader,
Here.
Dr. Bloom,
Here.
Mr. Voles,
Mr. Bowles is not here.
thank you. Ms. Gallagher,
Here.
and Ms. Hennessy.
Here.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Meoni. At this time, I do want to take a second to have a moment of silence for the 500,000 plus men and women that died from this horrible virus. So if you could all join me for a moment. Thank you. Dr. Bloom?
Good evening, everyone. Tonight will be the second of 3 budget work session presentations. And while Ms. Hennessy will take a more granular approach, I'd like to take a moment to highlight some of the overarching concerns with state aid, which play a significant role in our budget planning process. While New York State has been granted some funds as part of the latest stimulus package from the federal government, the governor has cut our STAR reimbursements and backfilled that with these funds. That is in addition to the money that was cut from this year that was backfilled with federal aid. We certainly appreciate the fact that we did not have to endure a 20% cut in aid, but that challenge for all districts will be the fallout once the federal aid is no longer available. Additionally, the governor's current proposal combines a number of aid categories that would make it difficult for our district to predict year to year how much we would be getting back, and would make it less worthwhile based on the new formula to go through BOCES for shared services, which are beneficial as we get a percentage of the money we spend back each year. We also need some relief from COVID-related costs. This year alone, we spent over $1 million that was not budgeted for to make sure we could provide in-person instruction 5 days a week. We know that in order to continue to get back to our new normal, there will continue to be costs associated with this pandemic next year and possibly beyond. And there are a number of other, important issues and areas that we'll be addressing with our elected officials. We'll be sharing with our community over the next few weeks. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Hennessy, who will provide that granular look at our budget and provide the second budget overview. Ms. Hennessy.
Thank you, Dr. Bloom. Would you be able to enable me to share my screen?
I am doing that right now, and you should have access to do that.
Great, thank you. Okay, so good evening, everybody. Thank you for attending. Tonight is the second budget workshop of the season. And tonight we're going to spend a little bit of time focusing on your taxes and how the tax levy limit works. The tax levy limit legislation was put in place in 2012. It limits the growth in the property tax levy to the lesser of 2% or inflation with limited exceptions. It states that districts who are in compliance or who are staying within their cap are required to have a simple majority vote, while those seeking to exceed it or pierce the cap would require a supermajority. Perhaps the most significant change is that 2 failed votes now result in a 0% levy increase. So in the past, 2 failed votes would result in what was called a contingent budget, which allowed approximately a 4% budget to budget increase. Now, if we have 2 failed votes, it would be a 0% levy increase, which would mean we could not add a single dollar to the levy despite rising costs. The basics of understanding the tax levy. We start with the amount that we need to spend, which is our expenditure budget. We then subtract out any non-tax revenues. For us, they include state aid, local revenue, and the use of reserves. Each year, we do propose to use a small portion of our employees' retirement system reserve to help us offset costs, and we will be doing so again this year. And then what's left, or the amount of money that you still need to raise to meet that expenditure budget, is what you raise through the tax levy. People often think of the tax cap as a 2% cap. It's not actually a 2% cap. It's developed based on an 8-step formula given to us by New York State. And since each school district has a unique set of inputs into that formula, each school district will have a unique result. This is an example of the formula. And our estimated levy for next year, our levy limit, I should say, is 1.4%. This translates into roughly a 1.013% budget to budget increase, or about a $400,000 increase to our budget. At this time, we're still early on in the budgeting process, and there are many significant factors that are still unknown or not finalized, including enrollment, state aid, and staffing. Now, to get a better understanding of your school tax bill, an individual school property tax varies based on the assessed value of their home. This assessed value is determined by the county and not the school district. The district is responsible for determining the school tax rate, which is developed and is the same for every home in the district. I like to explain this when I get phone calls from the community with questions as a simple formula of A times B equals C. A is your school tax rate. This is what we set, and it's the same for all homes in the district. B is your home's unique assessed value, which is assigned by the county. And then the result are your school taxes. So for example, if the school tax rate remains the same, but the county increases the assessed value of your home, your taxes will go up. And you can see this illustrated below. In the example of a school tax rate of $800, and just for simplicity's sake, an assessed value of $5, the taxes are $4,000. If the county increases your assessed value and the school taxes don't change, you'll still see an increase in your taxes paid. It is also possible, this is a tough one to wrap your head around, but it's also possible to have your taxes increase when your home's assessment decreases. And this can happen in situations where your decrease is not as large as the decrease on the average home. To better illustrate this, you can think of the total assessment as a pie. In scenario 1, you can see that the total assessment is blue and your piece of the pie, your home's assessment, is orange. In scenario 2, we assume that your home's assessment remains the same, but the total assessment shrinks. And you can see as a result, your burden or your tax burden, your portion of the taxes is larger. Probably the most frequently asked question is, why does that house across the street that looks just like mine pay less in taxes? And this is truly because of the assessed value of the home. To illustrate this further, I gathered information on 2 homes that are identical in visual appearance and on paper, right around the corner from one another, but valued very differently by the county. And you can see that although they are the same home, and although they do have the same school tax rate, their tax bill is very different based on that assessed value. Now, just to move on to the budget, we are at the second draft of the budget. At this point, as I said earlier, there's a lot of information still to be gained. And as such, a lot of significant changes are still to come. At this point, we've decreased the budget over the first draft, which was presented in February, by $260,000. We're now at $41,577,929. This represents a $1.4 million or 3.52% increase over the prior year's budget. And as I said, it's still very early in the budget development process, and we will continue to refine the proposal. As I stated, we have a goal where we need to meet a $400,000 increase, and we will continue to work towards that as budget season progresses. I thank you all for listening in today and invite you to join us again on March 24th for our 3rd budget workshop. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Hennessy. Dr. Blue.
Board acceptance is requested of the leave of absence request as listed.
Move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Board approval is requested of the following permanent per diem substitute teachers as listed.
Move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Board approval is requested of the memorandum of agreements as listed.
Move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Board acceptance is requested of the single audit report for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2020 from the district's independent auditor, R.S. Abrams and Company.
Move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Board approval is requested of the district's corrective action plan filed in response to the single audit report from the district's independent auditor, R.S. Abrams and Company for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2020.
Move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bloom. I'd just like to remind everyone of our regular board meeting on Wednesday, March 10th. So hopefully you can all make that. And I'll take a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting.
Move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, have a wonderful night, everyone. Be safe.
Thank you.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good